This is lesson 5-1, transforming equations and formulas. Some vocabulary that we need to discuss. First of all, a formula is an equation that states a relationship amongst any two quantities. Can be more than two, but typically we'll be dealing with two quantities. These are formulas that you should know from the past, middle school, elementary school. If any of these formulas you don't know, pause the video at this point to give yourself a chance to write them down. It is not necessary for you to write them down if you already know them. So the procedure for doing these particular types of problems is to read the directions and find the variable that needs to be isolated or solved for. In other words, if your question says to solve for A or express in terms of A, then A is the variable that you will need to isolate. From there, plug in any numbers you're given to find any other values that need to be had. And of course, be sure to watch like terms. Again, like terms, just as a reminder, are terms that have the same variable and the same exponent assigned to that variable. Let's take a look at an example of rewriting a literal equation. So pause the video at this point to give yourself a chance to write this question down. So we're ordering pizzas and sandwiches. You have a budget of $80. They give you an equation where P is the number of pizzas, S is the number of sandwiches, and it models the given situation. The question is, how many sandwiches can you buy if you buy 4 pizzas? So we have this particular equation. And in this case, what we want to do, since we want to know the number of sandwiches, S, is we want to take this equation and solve for S. And we'll do that by subtracting 10p from both sides. So now we have 5s is equal to 80 minus 10p. And then we'll divide both sides by 5 to isolate s. And s is equal to, and again, you can leave it just like it's written, 80 minus 10p over 5. Or if you feel the need to simplify it, remember that the 5 goes with both the 80 and the 10p. So we would need to divide the 80 by 5 and the negative 10p by 5, which would give us 16 minus 2p. So either s equals 80 minus 10p over 5 or s equals 16 minus 2p. Either one of those works. At this point now, we want to use the equation to find s when p is 4. So at this point, I'm going to go s equals 16 minus 2p, or if you wanted to use the fractional one, you certainly could. And now I'll plug in 4 for p, so s is equal to 16 minus 2 times 4. Negative 2 times 4 is negative 8, so s is equal to 16 minus 8. 16 minus 8 is 8. So s is equal to 8. So therefore, we can buy 8 sandwiches. Here's rewriting literal equations with variables only. Let's take a look at this question. What equation are we going to get when we solve ax plus by equals c for x? Pause the video at this point to give yourself a chance to try it on your own. So we're going to start out with ax plus by equals c. We want to solve for x. We're going to take it just like it would be a normal equation. We're going to first subtract by from both sides. Those are not like terms, so we'll have ax equal to c minus by. And then from here, we're going to divide both sides by a to isolate x. And again, there are no like terms here, so x is going to be equal to c minus by all over a. And that is your final answer. Understandably, it looks a little ugly and confusing, but again, that is the final answer because there are no like terms that we can combine. And finally, let's take a look at again a rewriting formula example. Write this question down. Pause the video at this point to give yourself a chance to write it down. and do the question on your own. Notice, of course, that there is just one question. It's right here. And again, notice the instructions for the last part to round it to the nearest tenth of a mile per day. Pause the video at this point. So at this point, we know the distance formula, since we're talking about distance, is D equals RT. That's one of the formulas that we should know. Distance equals rate times time. And we want to find rate. So since we need rate, we need to solve for it. So D equals RT, we're going to divide both sides by T so that R equals, D over T equals R. At this point, then, we'll plug in 1,700 for D and 120 for T. So that gives me 1,700 over 120 equals R. Dividing those two numbers gives me approximately 14.2. And so therefore, the monarch butterfly, since we're rounding to the nearest tenth, travels at a rate of 14.2 miles per day. If you're having any issues in any portion of this lesson, please make sure you are emailing me or consulting me in class.